Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to TOPS Wellness Workshop Series. Glad you are joining us today. My name is John Mullinex, and I serve as the program director here at Tuscaloosa One Place for intake, volunteers, and counseling programs. I'm also a licensed professional counselor in the state of Alabama, and I'll be serving as today's moderator, helping introduce the workshop and guiding our Q&A at the end, and then closing us out. These workshops are designed to provide education, encouragement, and practical tools related to mental health, wellness, relationships, stress, coping, and everyday life challenges. Our goal is to make mental health information more accessible, reduce stigma, and help individuals and families feel more informed and supported. The series is currently being offered weekly as we continue to grow and refine our program. Today's topic is healthy relationships with food and exercise. This is an important topic because food and movement are connected not only to our physical health, but also to emotions, stress, self-image, culture, access, routine, and our overall well-being. Today's workshop will focus on what it can look like to approach food and exercise in a balanced, realistic, and compassionate way. A few quick notes before we begin. Viewers will remain anonymous to other participants during the webinar. Your face and name will not be made public to other viewers, and we ask everyone to respect the privacy of those participating. You're welcome to submit questions during the presentation using the Zoom Q&A feature. We will hold those questions until the end and answer as many as we can during our Q&A wrap-up. This workshop is educational and is not a substitute for therapy, diagnosis, crisis intervention, medical advice, nutritional counseling, or other individualized fitness guidance. We also encourage everyone to avoid sharing highly personal or identifying information in submitted questions. Today's presentation will be led by Maggie alongside Rebecca, one of our top interns, Tuscaloosa One Place interns. I will return at the end to help moderate questions and close us out. With that, I'll turn it over to Maggie and Rebecca.
Hello. Let me share my screen real quick and then we'll begin. All right, one moment. Okay, I hope everyone is doing well today. I'm Maggie and
I'm Rebecca. Glad to be back.
yeah, and today's topic is going to be healthy relationships with food and exercise. I know we had a missing week the past 2 weeks, but we're starting it back up again, so this is lesson 5.
All right, and this is a little bit about who we are at TOP. We try to empower families to achieve their full potential by providing resources to promote self-sufficiency, strengthening families, and preventing child abuse and neglect to improve the quality of life for all members of our community. We have many different free programs that clients can join. We have workforce development, parenting programs, healthy families, counseling services, and much more. And you've just seen John introduce everything for us. He is a director of intake and volunteer and counseling programs. And Maggie is our success counseling program assistant.
Yeah. So this is our agenda today. We did the disclaimer, and we're going to talk about why we should tune into and take care of our bodies, some difference between interoceptive awareness and low interoception. We're going to talk about cortisol, other body function rules. We're going to talk about what is disordered eating, what is intuitive eating, tips on how to have a healthy relationship with food, quick overview of exercise importance, and a few other topics as well. It looks like a lot, but it will go by pretty quick though.
And this is our disclaimer. The information shared during this webinar is for educational and information purposes only and is not intended to replace professional mental health counseling, diagnosis, or treatment. And participation in this webinar does not create a therapist-client or counselor-client relationship with any of our presenters or with TOP in general. Some topics discussed may be sensitive or triggering. If you are experiencing emotional distress or a mental health crisis, please seek support from a licensed mental health professional or contact 911 or the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Also, because we're talking a lot about health today with exercise and food, we are not doctors, medical or psychiatrist or anything like that. We cannot diagnose you, and anything we say here is just information. It's not advice. We don't know your situation. You should go to a medical professional if you need any specialized care.
Yes, just generalized advice and psychoeducation.
So why should we take care of our bodies? Taking care of our bodies is a crucial element of well-being. Unlike other things like clothes, like you ruin it, you can just throw it away. Our bodies can't be replaced. We keep them forever. So caring for them goes beyond physical appearance. It's about nurturing vitality, mental clarity, and long-term health. And it's our body is more of a vehicle of daily tasks. It's directly linked to our overall wellness, affecting our mood, energy, and mental health. And when we invest in healthy practices, we can create a solid foundation for resilience and happiness.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times I don't think about my everyday, like my physical health as much as just like what I'm going through the motions, what I'm doing at work and stuff. So it was really nice coming up with this presentation because it made me step back and think like why I need to be taking more care of my body and like why should I tune into and take care of my body. So this was a fun one for me. But yeah, so we threw a kind of a few big crazy definitions in there, but let's talk about them. It sounds intimidating, but it really actually isn't that hard of a definition. So what's interoceptive awareness? So interoceptive awareness, it basically is how you listen to your body and how you listen to your physical and also mental cues within your body. It helps you identify how you feel physically and emotionally. It involves recognizing sensations such as thirst, hunger, heartbeat, and emotional shifts. It's contributing to self-regulation and emotional understanding. And this awareness can be trained and strengthened over time. So the little picture is the person like kind of doing yoga, and that might be a way to practice interoceptive awareness is, that mind-body connection, doing some yoga or deep breathing and things like that. So what's low interception? It's the reduced ability to sense and interpret internal bodily signals, especially hunger, thirst, emotions, and other physiological states. So one good thing is like when I was thinking about this is like there's times throughout my day where I just randomly get a migraine or a headache. And I'm like, well, why do I have such a bad headache? Or why am I like looking at the screen and I can't see straight and stuff like that? And then I realized, oh yeah, I haven't drank water at all today. And so, like, if you sometimes forget to skip meals, if you forget to drink water throughout the day, just not being aware of like your physical cues that your body's trying to tell you because you're so stuck in your mind or stressed out throughout the day, that might mean that you're experiencing some low interception. And another thing that's worthy to know is I have ADHD, and I've also read that if you have ADHD or other neurodivergent things in your life or tendencies, it can sometimes make interoceptiveness harder to deal with than a normal person who might be more neurotypical. But of course, don't self-diagnose yourself with anything. Always talk to your psychiatrist or doctor before just deciding whether or not you're neurotypical or neurodivergent. But yeah, that's kind of just what interoception awareness is. Oh no, you're good. Hey, you had that feeling, you recognize that you had to actually
Yeah.
cough. You're aware with your body. But I think it was good to talk about this first before we get into the nitty-gritty of like food and exercise, because if you can't listen to your body and understand what you're feeling physically, how can you make those changes in your life? Yeah.
Yeah. So then here are some just like visual aids to think about how to practice interoception. So one of the ways you can kind of get more in tune with your body is do the mindful body scan. That's that first one. So you're kind of thinking about descriptors for different parts of your body. So
Mhm.
is your brain like you're thinking, are you focused or are you lightheaded or are you kind of like drowsy? Like you're just checking in with each part of your body. Your eyes, your cheeks, your heart, they have all of it listed there. You're thinking about what even do I feel? Because most of us are so busy.
Mhm.
You go through the whole day and you might have been feeling nauseous all day and you're only realizing it when you get home after work because now you've got a second to slow down. This is just a way to try and keep on top of it so that you can help prevent the bad feelings or address the needs before they get bad. And then another mindful interception check-in on the right there is a way to grab a drink with a more extreme temperature, either hot or cold, but not so extreme that you hurt yourself. And you just hold it in your hand for a few minutes, kind of focus on that sensation, let go of it, focus on the difference in change, and repeat. This is a way to just try and connect your mind back to your body. Again, it's not a complex thing. It's pretty simple, so it sounds a little silly, but if you don't have that connection and relationship with your sensations and you're not noticing it, this is an easy way to get back on track with noticing how you're feeling.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I like these like easy check-ins as well because you can just do it like wherever you are. I always make coffee in the mornings and then I take my coffee to work with me. And I'll notice sometimes that my coffee cup, I haven't even touched it and it's cold again. And then because I've been so busy and running around the office, and so I'll go heat my coffee up and then I'll take a few seconds and sit at my chair and just hold my coffee cup and be like, okay, let's start the day in a less chaotic state. So I kind of practice that one on the right as well, sometimes, especially when I'm stressed out in the mornings.
Absolutely.
Um, and another type of bodily function that we should talk about before getting into just food in general is some things that happen in your body and you might not even realize it that can affect your eating habits or exercise. And one big thing that every one of us has in our body and we deal with all the time is cortisol. So, what is cortisol? It's a steroid hormone that helps your adrenal glands, which is located on top of your kidneys. Um, your adrenal glands actually create cortisol, and cortisol can, there's sometimes it can be viewed as in a negative light because it is part one of your stress hormones, but it actually helps regulate your body like in a lot of different ways. It helps regulate your sugar, it helps regulate your energy, it can decrease your inflammation. It regulates your blood pressure and helps control your sleep wake cycle or your circadian rhythm. And so cortisol is actually really good for your body. But if you're not taking care of yourself and you're stressed out a lot all the time, or you might have some other conditions that your doctor might prescribe for you, your cortisol can become really, really high. And on the right is some symptoms of high cortisol. And one thing to make note of is high cortisol makes a person really crave sugar and salt. And it also um, can make a person not have as fast or might have a slower metabolism than other people. So, a person's food intake and exercise regimen directly influences cortisol and bodily functions that are essential for your homeostasis. But there's ways to lower your cortisol, getting quality sleep. One thing I thought was cool is I don't know how much sleep that you get per night, but women actually need 9 to 10 hours of sleep and men like to function properly. And men only usually need around 7 to 8 hours. And this is just a generalized thing, it's to each person, it's their own preference for how their body feels. But I have noticed that I definitely need a lot more sleep than my fiance. And I know you're married, so you might need more sleep than your husband.
Definitely. I love getting 9 hours of sleep. I do feel so much better when I
Yeah.
hit that 9 hour mark.
Yeah, I mean 100%. And getting quality exercise routines and exercise routines that are structured for you can help balance your cortisol and stress hormones as well. Practicing deep breathing exercises, going back to the interoceptive awareness, holding your coffee mug or and then just doing a few deep breaths that can help with trying to create that more homeostasis in your body. I notice for me, I clench my jaw a lot when I'm stressed. So sometimes I'll have to tell myself to just unclench my jaw and like check in with my body and like say, well, why am I like so stressed in my shoulders and in my jaw? And I realize it's because my stress hormones are just out the roof. So, practicing that like mindful, actually lowering your jaw, all that type of things can help you get to that calm state before tackling all the hard food regimens, exercise things. Because if you can't figure out how your body is right now, then it's going to be hard for you to make all these big changes with food and exercise later.
Mm. So, what is disordered eating? So, I know people know about eating disorders. That's a slightly different thing. We're just talking about disordered eating itself, not a clinical diagnosis. And it's a person's attitudes about food, eating and exercise, maybe weight and body size or shape that causes them to have rigid eating or exercise habits that interfere with their health, happiness, or safety.
Mhm.
Those with disordered eating are at risk for developing an eating disorder, but those would need to be diagnosed by a mental health professional.
Mhm.
And then we have some examples there. Just thinking about extremes, right? If you are so restrictive to yourself that now you can't eat out with friends or you've like
Mhm.
blocked off whole food groups that you're like, I'm never going to eat that again. That's probably going into an unhealthy relationship with food.
Mhm.
Or the other extreme, if you're just eating to the point where you're overly full, like pretty
Mhm.
regularly, and then now you kind of feel sick all the time. That's another example of how this could be disordered on either end of the spectrum. It's
Mhm.
not healthy to be on either extreme. It's more desirable to be in the middle where you're eating till you're satisfied. You can eat fun food and healthy food. Sometimes those overlap, but you don't have to overly restrict yourself to be healthy. That's actually kind of going
Mhm.
against what's healthy and recommended.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I think can like trigger disordered eating is that like diet trauma right in there. It's not exactly like that's not like a definition of a type of disordered eating. It's more of like a cause, I feel like, for people to start having disordered eating is, you might go on TikTok or Instagram and it's like, oh, actually anyone can go on those social media platforms and probably the fifth reel or video you see is somebody talking about how to lose weight or your new diet you have to try out. And usually those diet scams, it's just for the point of losing weight. It's not for the point of making your body physically feel better. It's more like making your body look a different way. So I think diet trauma is a big thing and that can lead to people having that disordered eating. Um, but yeah, and then the deprivation driven eating, it's kind of when someone deprives themselves of not getting to eat any fun foods or anything like that they actually like. Some people believe like sh all sugar is bad. And well, fruit has sugar in it. So that's not always the case. I used to tell myself that like all sugar is bad. And then I wouldn't allow myself to even put sugar in my coffee, like a little spoonful of sugar in my coffee. And this is just me personally, but I don't like black coffee. I like my coffee sweet. So, but if I sometimes I would force myself to drink black coffee always, but then I would just be thinking about, man, I just want to go to Starbucks. And so I would only be thinking about that caramel latte from Starbucks while I'm drinking my black coffee at home. And yeah, it's kind of like what you were saying too. If it interacts with your everyday life in a starts affecting your functioning, because all I was doing was thinking about the sugar I was wanting. So
Right.
I couldn't think about anything that I needed to think about, like my job. But
And honestly, a lot of this is triggered by the extremes, like the deprivation-driven eating that you're talking
Hmm.
about, our bodies evolved to resist starvation because that was the main problem for centuries and centuries
Hmm.
is that people were just trying to eat enough to survive. Well,
Hmm.
now we have plenty of food, which thank goodness we do in America. We're very blessed to have access to a lot of food for most people. Um, but then sometimes the cheaper food is the unhealthy food, and you eat that, but then if you try and eat healthier, it's more expensive. And then you
Hmm.
also, though, are now denying your body the thing that it craves because your body craves the fats and things, and those can be healthy to
Hmm.
eat healthy fats like avocado, great for
Yeah,
you.
I love avocado.
But your body might be craving the chips because you've been denying yourself so long that now you might accidentally binge on them
Hmm.
because you've been so strict with yourself. And then
Hmm.
you've gotten into like the unhealthy eating habits.
Hmm. Completely agree. But this is just a quick like little scale that I made. So if you might be wondering if you're watching this, um, oh, we just talked about disordered eating, and you're like, man, well, you might be thinking about your attitudes and your routines that you have in your life, and you're like, well, do I have a disordered eating? Am I having an eating disorder? What am I doing? And you might be freaking out. This is just a little scale that you can look at for yourself and just kind of evaluate your own life. So for a disordered eating, it's an unhealthy eating behavior or attitude, but an eating disorder would be a diagnosed mental health condition. So you would need to talk to a psychiatrist or a licensed professional counselor and talk with them about your symptoms to determine whether or not you have an eating disorder. I think, I mean, I'm speaking just on like an opinion here, but I think a lot of humans, most humans have experienced some sort of disordered eating in their lifetime. And it's not always like a crazy, crazy crisis. I think every one of us have emotionally ate at one time. Like if you're sad or if you've gone through a breakup, you might want to go get your tub of ice cream and stuff. And that's not necessarily bad, but it's a type of emotional eating. But I think it would become more of into a disordered eating if it was like what we were talking about, affecting your everyday life, functioning as well.
That's a great point. It's more about what your eating habits are like the majority of the time. Because, like
Hmm.
you said, some people emotionally eat. I feel like everyone's done that at least once.
I have.
Also, when you go to a party and they have all this spread of delicious food, you
Hmm.
might eat a good bit more than you would at home if you're just eating your
Hmm.
home cooked meal. That doesn't mean that you've necessarily binged, but maybe you're getting closer to that side of things. Doing that once every now and then is not a huge problem.
Yeah.
Once again, talk to a doctor
Hmm.
about whatever concerns you have. Everybody has different health needs and everything, but don't panic just because one time you ate something that wasn't the most healthy thing. It's also not good to obsess over every single meal, making the most healthy choice that you can
Hmm.
over every meal. You'll be exhausted.
I used to do that, and then it just stressed me out more. And going back to cortisol, when I'm super stressed out, it raises my cortisol levels and then makes my inflammation go up because good, healthy cortisol levels help lower your inflammation. So,
Right.
it's that cycle. But I will say really fast though that you might hear terms like anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, or ARFID. Those are terms for an actual eating disorder. So if you hear somebody mentioning those terms, that's not a term of emotion of disordered eating. That would be a diagnosed mental health condition. Because I know sometimes people will just throw those words around willy-nilly, and those are serious mental health conditions, and it's not something just to make light of.
Right. So now that we've talked about some of the unhealthy sides of eating, let's talk about what might be a good way to eat.
Mhm.
So, this is something called intuitive eating. Mindful eating and intuitive eating involves being present and engaged with the food and not like obsessed about it, not obsessed about making the most healthy choice, but just being present while you're eating. You're focusing on the sensory experience of eating, while also listening to your body's cues about fullness or
Mhm.
whether you're like, I'm kind of about to be done because a lot of the times it takes a good, at least it takes me like 10 to 15 minutes after I've finished eating to fully feel full.
Yeah.
But I start to kind of feel it near the end where I'm like, oh, I might want to be done soon. And
Hmm.
then several minutes later, it hits me where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm full.
Hmm.
So, also a good way to help kind of intuitively eat, if you can help it at all. I try and like eat a little bit slower.
Hmm.
Obviously, this is not feasible for everybody. If you're at work and you've got 15 minutes on your lunch break, it is what it is. That's all you can do. But
Hmm.
I try and eat a little bit slower because that helps me stay more in tune with my mind and body.
Hmm.
Um, and you're just trying to practice those interoceptive awareness skills that we talked about earlier, where you're trying to measure how full or how hungry you are, or if you're nauseous or whatever else is going on. Um, you're also going to want to think about your body's metabolic flexibility. This means just that your body doesn't burn the exact same amount of calories every single day, right?
Hmm.
If you exercised, you might want to eat a little bit more, possibly,
Hmm.
just because you burned more calories. Or if you consistently eat less food, sometimes that means your body will burn less calories overall just because it's adapting to
Hmm.
your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you want to be aware of maladaptive behaviors. This is like actions that prevent people from adapting, adjusting, or participating in various parts of life, like procrastination, binge eating, or emotional eating, self-harm, substance abuse. Any of those would be maladaptive behaviors. It's important to be aware of those so you can know how to prioritize slowing down and practicing intuitive eating skills and knowing what habits you might need to adjust so that it's more possible for you to use intuitive eating.
Hmm. Yeah. Sometimes if you're not aware of like those behaviors that you do when you're stressed, those maladaptive behaviors and things that might not be as healthy, it can bleed in over into your eating and physical health lifestyle, and that can be hard sometimes. But so here's some tips on how to have a healthy relationship with food and intuitive eating. Honoring your hunger, that's what Rebecca was talking about too. Learn what it feels like to be physically hungry. I know there was a time in my life where I had someone mention to me one day, they're like, "When's the last time that you felt your stomach growl?" And I am very blessed enough that I haven't had to go without food a lot in my life. Like I've been able to get food one way or another. I haven't ever really gone without, which I'm thankful for, but I know a lot of people in America and other parts of the world do experience their stomach growling every single day. But for a lot of us who might be have more privilege to get access to food all the time, like when was the last time that your stomach was growling? When was the last time that you fully actually felt like, oh, I'm hungry to eat again? Um, Learning the stages of hunger for yourself, making peace with food. So, like Rebecca was saying, moderation for all food groups. It's okay to have a cupcake once a week or something, however you want to make peace with food yourself. Feeling your fullness, coping with your emotions with kindness instead of emotional eating. And like we said, everyone emotionally eats probably at least once in their life. But instead of being mad at yourself after you finish that like really big container of ice cream when you were sad, just say, "Oh, why did I crave that ice cream? Why did I finish this whole tub if I wasn't hungry? Oh, it's because I was sad because of X, Y, and Z." And then going back to it and being like, "Well, how can I help myself while I'm sad instead of just going towards the ice cream?" Challenging diet culture and the food police, good or bad food, um, using those terms with food because food is food. It's not inherently good or bad. It's just fuel for our bodies. Honoring your health with nutrition. Yeah, just trying to have that balance of all different types of food groups. But that little picture on the side is mindful eating, some tips to do while you're eating. And hopefully some of these tips will help y'all out. Ooh. But this is a lot of words. I'm gonna say this quote really fast, but I found this quote when I was researching and I thought it was too good not to share. Emotional eating is not simply an issue of willpower. So it's not simply an issue of like can I do it? Can I just eat well? It is a neurobiological, psychological, and environmental phenomenon reinforced by chronic stress, so that raised cortisol levels and poor food quality, like what Rebecca was saying, with cheap food and things like that. However, the science is also hopeful because food can regulate mood, build emotional resilience, and interrupt maladaptive behavior patterns, like those emotional eating patterns and things like that when used strategically. Moreover, food isn't merely a source of macro and nutrients, but also a medium for social connection, parties, holidays, traditions, cultural identity that goes with things that like parties, traditions, things that you do with your friends and family, and enjoyment. You know, I like getting an ice cream sometimes, especially in the summertime. Mindful and intuitive eating re-engages the body's internal regulation systems, while diets rich in phytochemicals, that is basically just the nutrients that you get from plants. Fiber and healthy fats nourish the gut-brain axis, so how our stomach communicates with our brain, and reduces neuroinflammation, which is basically sometimes your brain can create inflammation in your body if you're not getting the right nutrients, and that can lead to headaches and other things. But if you're having that balanced diet and balanced food groups, it helps reduce the neuroinflammation. So the avoidance of ultra-processed food and improving equitable access to whole nutrient-dense foods may represent the most sustainable strategy to promote well-being. So that's kind of just like a long but fancy way to say mindful and intuitive eating, I believe, is one of the best ways to go. But of course, consult your doctor for your specific body needs.
All right, now we're going to move on to exercise. So why is it important? It can dramatically improve the symptoms of depression, anxiety, and stress. Routine exercise also improves mood, self-esteem, sleep, and cognitive function. These are things that like everybody's going to experience a little bit differently. It doesn't mean just because you went on one walk that like your depression is cured. We're not trying to say that. We're just saying exercise does do things for your body. Like there are chemicals that are released in your brain, like dopamine, when you exercise that help with feeling more joy in life, that can help reduce some of the signs of stress. It really can help with sleep because exercise will make you tired. So if you're having a hard time falling asleep at night, I found this helpful for myself. Exercise earlier in the day so that by the time it's time to go to bed, I'm actually physically tired and it's not just time to sleep and I have to kind of make myself go to sleep. It's also good for cognitive function. It can help boost all of again, the hormones that go into your brain, but also your brain's kind of also a muscle. So when you're exercising other muscles in your body, something about it just helps your brain. So it's just, these are things that can be beneficial, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see all of these results immediately or something crazy when you exercise. It's more about intentionally incorporating exercise into your life on a more consistent basis is probably going to help you see some of these benefits. And there are also benefits for improving your physical health. Your cardiovascular health helps prevent heart disease, helps with high blood pressure and colon and breast cancer and obesity. Once again, these are things that consistency is key to being able to see some of these results. And everybody's going to also just have a different result. So everybody's individual results are going to look different based on the type of exercise, where you're starting from. All those things are just going to be a little bit different per person. But still, exercise has been shown to have a positive effect on people.
And when you were saying that, it made me think of something too. Like for me personally, for what my doctor suggested is, I can't really, if I went and tried to run a mile or ran 2 miles, that actually would raise my cortisol levels more for my specific physical conditions that I have. So instead of, some person like in that image, they might need to go run a few miles on the treadmill and that's going to do wonders for their body. For me, that actually is not going to be the best for my joints and things. So my doctor told me instead of going on the treadmill, why don't you just walk? very slowly, like 2 miles, at like a leisurely jog, or a leisurely walk or stroll.
That's
So
a great
yeah.
point. Because everybody's different and has different physical needs. If you're injured, please don't exercise when you're injured. That's only going to make your injury worse, probably. And
Hmm.
also, you're not going to see the same kind of benefits. It's better to rest when you're injured, or if you've
Hmm.
just had a surgery or something else is going on in your life. This isn't just we are going to blindly exercise just for the sake of exercising. This is
Hmm.
also where the interoception can come into play.
Hmm.
If you're in the middle of exercising and something feels wrong in your body,
Hmm.
that's a good point to stop and see about going to the doctor to get an x-ray
Hmm.
or an MRI or something, because it's important that you take care of your body in general more than it's important to just exercise.
Hit
Exercise
those
isn't
goals, hit those
right.
miles.
It's not the cure-all. It's just a good thing to have incorporated in your life. It's been seen to be beneficial.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about what's an unhealthy relationship with exercise. This is the hitting your goals and just exercising even through the pain. I know
Hmm.
there's that saying, no pain, no gain.
Hmm.
That just means we like challenge ourselves a little bit with exercise. That does not mean you exercise on a broken foot or
Hmm.
something. It's good to be mindful of when your body needs rest.
Hmm.
And also feeling super anxious or overwhelmed at the thought of exercising, that's a sign that maybe that we have an unhealthy relationship with exercising. Maybe your goals are too high for yourself. You have too high of
Hmm.
expectations, and now that you're not meeting the goals you set, now you're feeling panicked or something. That is something you might want to discuss with a therapist or see also a doctor. Maybe there's some other underlying thing happening in your body that you just are sensing in some way, but you don't know what's going on yet.
Hmm.
If you're avoiding specific activities or types of exercise that you used to enjoy in the past or used to be involved in, um, you might want to look at, why am I now having this negative emotional reaction to it?
Hmm.
Maybe something happened, there was a triggering event, something again to talk with maybe a therapist or maybe a doctor about. If you're having negative body image when you're exercising and that's like the only goal behind exercise, another thing
Hmm.
to bring to a professional. A lot of these things are just maybe you need additional help and support to understand what's going on before you go back to exercising, because it's better to talk to a professional than it is to just keep going the way you're going when you're having this emotional or physical reaction to
Hmm.
exercise. Any other
No,
thing to add
I
on
think
that?
you did great with that. And that goes along exactly with like what is exercise avoidance, kind of having that unhealthy relationship with exercise. It's just a person's desire literally to not engage in exercise or physical activity. And there's a number of reasons why, and it kind of goes under the unhealthy relationship. So avoidance due to having body image issues or body dysmorphia, always associating exercise with weight loss, no longer wanting to punish yourself. So you're like, oh, I had 2 slices of cake at a birthday party last night. I gotta go and run 2 miles, like 1 mile per slice of cake. No, maybe not the best healthy relationship with exercise. Fear that adding exercise back in will then lead you to relapse or go back towards disordered eating or compulsive exercising. And then, like Rebecca was saying, just things that you might already be diagnosed with if you already have a injury or a chronic illness or hormonal disorder. Exercising in general can feel like 10 million times more hard than it would be to somebody who's perfectly healthy at the time. But that's what exercise avoidance is.
So then what is a healthy relationship with exercise? So finding a balance between a compulsive or avoiding relationship with exercise. You don't want to feel like I have to exercise or I've been bad,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't want to avoid exercise because it's bringing up some sort of negative reaction. Hopefully everyone can have more of a neutral or slightly positive
Mm-hmm.
idea about exercise. That's more of the healthy recommendation. Getting to a place where you have a relationship that feels easy or effortless, doesn't take up too much of your brain space. You don't want to be just like you don't want to think about food literally all day, every day. That might
Mm-hmm.
indicate a bad relationship with food. Thinking about exercise all day, every day might indicate that there's something going on and we need extra
Hmm.
outside help to figure out what is happening.
Hmm.
And it's good to have self-compassion and a non-judgmental attitude towards yourself and towards exercise. You shouldn't expect to see, I don't know, new muscles growing just because you've been exercising for 1 week. These things
Hmm.
take time and consistency, and it's good just to be proud of yourself that you got up and exercised.
Yeah.
Even if your end goal is to build lots of muscle or to be thinner, okay, that's fine, but let's be gentle with ourselves because
Hmm.
being harsh is not going to be conducive to a good relationship with yourself or with the activity that you're trying to incorporate into your life.
Hmm.
And exercise, just like in that picture, can be a great way to foster a sense of community. Group exercises. I know the university we have here in town, they do a lot of group exercises at our rec center.
Hmm.
That's a great way to get new friends or even just be involved in something with a group, even if you don't want to talk to these people outside of that group class. You're at least with everybody else exercising. It creates a sense of community. It feels less boring and sterile if you don't like to
Hmm.
just lift weights. Okay, join a little exercise class and then it's a little bit more fun. That's a good way to have a better relationship with exercise if you're having trouble doing it just the regular come in and run on the treadmill way.
Hmm. And finding something that's actually a fun type of exercise for you. I love swimming. I've always loved water. So instead of me going to run on the treadmill, especially because my doctor said running would probably hurt my joints more, I'm gonna go swimming. And I did something fun.
Absolutely. Better to do that than be bored.
Yeah. Yeah, and so here's some tips on how to have a healthy relationship with exercise. We kind of already talked about some tips, so I'll keep it brief so we can get to our discussion. But any exercise is better than none. Just start small, build up, and use friends, coworkers, and family members to increase um, you trying to get outside and get do some exercise. So, if you might have been getting over having an illness or something in your life and you've been bedridden or stayed inside a lot, maybe just your exercise for that day is getting out and walking to the mailbox and back, going to get your mail. Maybe do that a few times and just see how you feel after that. Exposure therapy, slowly moving back into the space of doing that exercise you like. So, I mean, in the wintertime, I couldn't go swimming outside for a lot. So, when I started back in the summertime swimming, it was a little bit harder because I'd not swam for a few months, but just slowly moving back into that space of doing something you like and keeping that exercise activity enjoyable.
And reasonable for
Yes.
your own body and what you've been doing lately and your own illnesses and injuries.
Hmm.
And here's a little bit about professional help. I know we've been talking about it a little bit about if you're having these issues, you might want to seek additional support. Here are some resources we provided for you. You should seek professional help for food and exercise when thoughts about them cause constant stress, dictate your self-worth, or lead to physical harm. Key warning signs include obsessive calorie tracking,
Hmm.
extreme guilt or anxiety around meals, and exercising through injury or illness. If those things are happening, here are some resources. We
Hmm.
have a Center for Eating Disorder, online support, and we've got the National Alliance for Eating Disorders. They've got a phone number and a 24/7 crisis line. And of course, as always, 988 is great because they do a lot of things with crisis. So they're going to have resources and be able to refer you or be able to talk to you right then and there on the phone.
Yeah, and if you need to call the eating disorder hotline and you might not even know if you have an eating disorder, you might just be having disordered eating. It's okay. You can still talk to somebody even if you haven't gotten that specific diagnosis yet from a professional. It's always good to reach out and talk to somebody instead of being quiet, even if you're waiting to get that professional diagnosis. But yeah, here are some key takeaways that we can go over really quickly before we get to our Q&A. Food is nourishment, not something to fear or control. All foods can fit into a balanced lifestyle. Movement is a way to care for your body and not punish it. And it's actually self-love and self-care to move your body. So avoiding exercise at all costs is not good, but overworking your body and exercising until your body hurts all the time, that's not good either. Your thoughts about food and your body matter. Challenge all or nothing thinking, good versus bad foods, perfect versus failure, skinny versus plus size. There's no how your body looks does not dictate your worth, and the size of your pants and the amount of miles you can run does not dictate your worth either. Balance is healthier than perfection. Your worth, yeah, and your worth is not determined by your weight, appearance, or productivity. I think that's something to definitely hone in this day and age. But here are some of our references, and now we'll get into our Q&A discussions and all that.
Awesome. Thanks, Maggie and Rebecca. That was awesome. So we're now going to get into our Q&A portion. As a reminder, viewers remain anonymous to other participants, and names and faces are not being made public. We will answer questions in a general educational way, so please avoid including personal details that could identify you or someone else. We'll answer as many questions as we can in the time that we have. I'll begin by reading through some of the questions that were submitted. Okay, let's see here. All right. So it looks like we have a question from a college student. Looks like they work 2 jobs, attend school full time. Wow, that's a lot. Rarely cooks. I'm sure that's probably because of time, and eats mostly fast food. The student doesn't enjoy eating this way, but says it's all they can afford and have time for. Is this an unhealthy relationship with food? I would say not necessarily. I think we all do the best that we can, whether we are a college student or working a full-time job with kids. I think we all have to make do with what we have. Fast food, that by itself is not it's not necessarily an unhealthy thing. It can be costly sometimes, but if that's all you have available to you, then you kind of have to make do with what you have. I know a lot of places that I eat because I really do enjoy fast food myself. And I become more mindful of some of the offerings that fast food places have. Some of them do have healthier alternatives to just eating burgers and fries. And burgers in and of themselves aren't necessarily unhealthy. I think the bun is the unhealthy part, but you get plenty of protein from eating a burger. But as I said, you kind of have to do the best you have. I would, would wonder if there was maybe some other alternatives that aren't being thought about. Maybe meal prepping at home, maybe an option. There's a lot of easy to fix meals that you can get at the grocery store, things like that. But as a therapist, if you're wanting uh, to change your eating habits, what I often tell my clients, and I think this was brought up in the presentation, is to start small. So if you can make one little change, and it could be something as simple as when you go out to eat with fast food, is instead of having that soda, is maybe substituting that with water as one small change that you can make. A lot of times that can lead to kind of a snowball effect with healthier habits. So just keeping those kinds of little changes in mind can be helpful. But as I said, a lot of times, there's just not a lot of time. There are apps that you can use that count calories, to track calories. Fitness Plus or My Fitness Plan, one of those. Sometimes they can provide some ideas on how to make smaller changes based on your work and school schedule. But I think, if it's the difference between also eating, um, eating and not eating, if you're thinking that that fast food meal is not healthy and you skip a meal, I think that can oftentimes be worse than eating that meal. Your body needs energy to think, especially if you're in school and to get through the day. So skipping meals is not necessarily a great alternative either. Maggie and Rebecca, do you have any comments on this one?
I was thinking that when you were talking about, trying to explore some options for that person, especially because they might not have a lot of money. Um, if, it is possible, like you said, to find healthier options at fast food restaurants, but sometimes even those healthier options can still they can be marketed as healthier and they
Mhm.
still might not be as healthy as, getting something from the grocery store. But I would say since that person was talking about not having enough money to eat healthy, then there's no shame in going sometimes to like West Alabama Food Bank. I know that they have a lot of those pre-boxed boxes that they can hand out to people or at a food drive. Tuscaloosa One Place does a mobile food pantry
Mhm.
each month besides November and December because we have a lot of holiday programs. But I've actually personally packed some of those boxes at the food bank and I love them. They're always so nice there. They try to put like actual produce or some like healthy versions of food in those boxes that people can make in a bind or at home or
Mhm.
in a college dorm or something. So there's no shame in like sometimes in your life having to maybe go get help from another place who can provide you with some of those foods that you might not be able to get yourself at the grocery store. But do you have anything to add, Rebecca, you think?
I know from my personal experience, just trying to budget, right? Because I feel like everybody
Mhm.
should have at least a little bit idea of how much money they want to spend on food, and it's hard to figure out how to spend it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's worth it just to go on like the Walmart app or wherever you're
Mhm.
shopping for food. If you're going to do
Mhm.
groceries, go and look at the price of a whole meal together. I'm thinking about just a sandwich. I look at the price of a loaf of bread,
Mhm.
the lunch meat I want, and a condiment or whatever, cheese.
Mhm.
Add them all together and then divide out how much that would be per meal, how many meals you can make out of it. It's surprising that some things are cheaper to make at home, something like
Mhm.
that. If you're
Yeah.
not being too fancy with it, or spaghetti. A box of pasta is 99 cents. A thing of tomato sauce from Walmart is usually $1.83. And then some meat, you can get a big thing of
Mhm.
what's it called? Ground beef. And if you get
Mhm.
the smaller one, it might be $6, and that might be enough to feed you for like 7 meals. And it's
Mhm.
less than you would have spent on 2 meals eating out, even though that's more work. So I know if they're a student, you got to budget time for that as well. But even doing that one meal a week, like one meal per day for the whole week, and
Mhm.
still eating out those other two, it might help with your budget and it might help you save a little bit on like healthier foods, just being able to have a healthier alternative to make yourself feel better.
I do that with I actually did this past Sunday. I made a bunch of spaghetti and then I put ground beef in there and then I got some like frozen vegetables at Walmart and you pretty cheap in the freezer section, just like a frozen thing of like cauliflower or something. Throw it in there and
Mhm.
it can definitely last me at least a few days meal prepping it. So I'm in this with y'all. I'm trying it
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, my wife and I meal prep as well. Some of it is 3 or 4 different ingredients and super simple, 20 minutes or so to prep it for the week. It works really well. I will say something, Maggie, you brought up a good point with our mobile food pantries, but I know for students, and at least I know at UA, they have a food pantry there as well. And
I didn't even know that.
yeah, there is if you're in need of food, I believe it's in their student center, that they have access to food there as well. And as a college student, there's oftentimes programs that are available on healthy eating, or seeking counseling at the counseling center, things like that are available that can help further with your eating habits, and finding ways to adapt to your schedule. And a lot of insurance plans if you're not a student. If you have insurance, nutritionists are usually covered, but that's something you would talk with your doctor about. Um, Looks like we have one other question. What are some tips for starting healthy habits? Well, as I mentioned, as a therapist, starting small is something I tell my clients a lot. Don't change everything at once, because you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. As I mentioned, if you can, if you're eating out 3 times a day or 2 times a day, maybe have one meal that's healthy. I think that would be a good place to start. Changing habits from, small habit from, um, sodas to juices or something diet. I think that's a small habit as well that can help. But I think, in seeking out support, sometimes having being accountable for someone else, or also somebody else helping you, finding a buddy that may want to join in with you on eating a little bit healthier. That can create and sustain habits as well. And just seeking out, the small resources. Online is a great wealth of information. Obviously, talking to your doctor um, or a professional is always the best way. But there's some good resources online. I believe we even had some in this presentation that can steer you on to giving you the tools you need for healthier habits. So, any thoughts with Rebecca and Maggie there?
I was just gonna say one thing for me that has started to help me create like a healthier habit is I've noticed because I can count my steps on my phone just by keeping my phone in my pocket.
Hmm.
Since I got my dog is 1 year old. Since I got a dog a year ago, my step count has increased so much
Hmm.
just from taking her out to go
Yep.
potty and stuff. So, and also, I mean, I love pets. Some people aren't pet people, but it's a companion, it's a friend as well, and it motivates me there's been so
Hmm.
many days that I do not want to get off the couch, but my dog has to go on a walk to pee. And so that helped me get some more of my steps in. But what about you, Rebecca?
I in the past have liked using Noom, Noom, which is
Mm.
kind of like a
Mm.
different version of the MyFitnessPal app on your phone.
Mhm.
I liked them because they had psychology articles built into it on the psychology of food and healthy eating. So
Mhm.
like kind of like this presentation kind of helps you think about it in a healthy way and not just I want to track as few calories as possible. They've definitely discouraged that, and it's more
Mhm.
about here's some ways to have a healthy relationship with food. One of their big recommendations was you want to not be listening to TV or playing on your phone while you're eating so you can
Oh,
hear yourself chew
it's a
because
big one I
that
have struggled with.
oh, it's so hard, but it tells your brain that you are eating, and so you're paying more attention to it, and you feel more full faster because your brain's registering the
Mhm.
food. So stuff like that, little tips and tricks, I found extremely helpful just to have a support that's giving me
Hmm.
something that's evidence-based to help me with
Mhm.
trying to have a healthy relationship with food.
I like
Yep.
that.
And I agree. And a lot of the apps, some of them are paid subscriptions, but you'd be surprised at how much free content there is with the unpaid subscriptions,
Mm-hmm.
MyFitnessPal, and I'm sure Noom is kind of the same way. But there's a lot on your phones that can track things, and tracking is a huge benefit as well because that tells you where to start. If you're not tracking things, um, that's you're kind of going blindly into a plan. So if you can track things, you can see small areas where you can fix, and that's what a lot of those apps are good for, is that tracking portion. And it's not just about calories. Calories are one thing, but it's also the other nutritional value. A big thing right now is protein as well, and that's important to keep in mind as well. So looks like we're out of time, a little over time. So I'm going to go ahead and close things up. So I want to thank everyone again for joining us for Top's Wellness Workshop Series. We definitely appreciate you being here, and your willingness to have important conversations about mental health, wellness, and just everyday habits. Today, we talked about healthy relationships with food and exercise, including how food, movement, emotion, stress, body image, finances, time, and access can all influence the choices people make. So the main takeaway today is that a healthy relationship with food and exercise is not about perfection. You got to start somewhere, start small. It's about balance, flexibility, being self-aware, and caring for ourselves in realistic and sustainable ways. Um, Before we close, I just want to briefly share a little bit about Tuscaloosa's One Place. We are a family resource center that works to strengthen families, connect individuals and families with helpful supports in our community. And we offer a variety of programs, including parenting support, workforce development, counseling related services, volunteer opportunities, community outreach, and referrals to anything that we don't offer that's in our community. If you or someone could benefit from our support, please reach out. We encourage you to reach out to TOP and learn more about what we may have to offer. You can do that through our website, TuscaloosaOnePlace.org, or giving us a call here at the office. Our number is 205-462-1000. This webinar series is open to anyone who is interested, so please feel free to share the webinar link with family, friends, coworkers, or others who may benefit from joining us. For more information about upcoming workshops and top services, please check out our social media and or our website. Thank you again to Maggie and Rebecca for leading today's presentation, and thank you to everyone who attended. Please keep your eye on social media for our next scheduled webinar. Should be in the next week or two. We hope you all have a great day, and thanks again for joining us.